headbanging our way into the craziness. We enter into the mind of madness on this beautiful July 4th. Happy America Day. This Monday we are celebrating Canada Day, so it's only fair that we say hello to you down south in America Day. Say hello to Amber. Amber's poking her head into the corner on my show. This is, yeah, we're hitting critical point. It is time to decide, as far as the team is concerned, what I'm ready to actually consider for Canadian Nationals. This has been a big focus right now. And how we've done that is we've been actually getting a fair amount of practice. Holy smokes, I'm finally practicing what I preach and practicing my goddamn team. Past couple of years I've been pretty notorious for not giving great advice but not following it. It's one of those things. Some of the best advice comes from hypocrites, you know? I can't tell you a single person who smokes who's not going to tell you to quit smoking or no, don't smoke ever. And they're giving good advice. That's advice from, people who are experiencing something very terrible. So I am kind of priding myself at this point as a better coach than player. That's always been kind of the thing where it's like, I'll give good advice. I won't follow it. I will not follow my way into victory somehow, some way. I'm an entertainer. Who am I kidding? I'm going to give my best, do my best, and do what's, in my best interest. And part of that is comfort. So what happened a couple weeks ago is I thought that I was going to try really hard to win Canadian Nationals. So I started playing what people were playing. And I have a stubborn body and a massive refusal to do what I'm supposed to do, which is win the game of Heroclix, oddly enough. And apparently winning the game of Heroclix in the current environment does involve taking the game away to a certain degree. So I can't do that. I want everybody to play the game of Heroclix. It's this weird game that we're all playing, and I feel like we should all be playing it. But at the same time, controlling the game is a part of winning. I mean, I don't understand how I got to this place, because if you play Magic the Gathering with me, I will blue deck you to death. You will not be playing Magic. You'll be watching me play Magic. So, I don't know. I hit this point in Heroclix where I can't do that in that game. Probably because it's all face value. There's a certain degree, a less degree of luck for what's on the table. The luck comes from making the actual actions. So, I think that's one of the big things I like about Heroclix over Magic. Magic, a lot of the luck is, will I be able to execute my plan? And then Heroclix turns around and says, I'm going to execute my plan. Is it going to blow up in my face? So I want to take a second and say what's up to the chat. Quite lively today. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to wax intellectual about how I think I am approaching Canadian Nationals, what I'm going to probably play. Because to be honest, I tried the Kobik Astronomer Trader thing, and the pacing for me isn't. I push pace. I really try to push a little bit more forward than a lot of things do, and as a result, that has created a playstyle that made me kind of not like that one pushes itself forward, but it doesn't. There's a discomfort for me. There's one of those things. It's like there's only 4 really moving pieces in that team, and I find that there's a lot when there's a lot more going on. Like each figure in this team, in the Astronomer, Kobik Trader, Dr. Oz, with Mr. Oz team. One of the things that was really cool about it is each individual figure has more than one use. But I found myself trying to figure out with 3 actions, and with 4 characters, it's too little for me. I found I need answers, ideas, things to do. I don't know. I can't explain it myself, and I haven't played with less than 6 figures in years. when I do play with less, like the one time I think I played with less than six figures, it was my Green Goblin Jakeem Thunder team, and I think I had a. This was the year Worlds was everybody has a Pim tank. Good luck, guys. And that one was probably one of the smallest teams I've ever played competitively. But even then, I had like I think I had a round table on that one. I want to say. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so I kind of went back into my old drawing board and decided on something really weird. And everybody hates it, which is why I know I can play it. So without further ado, let's take it to HC Realms. We're in the wrong one. This is the way. Sorry about that for a second. All right, so I got this one here. We're good. All right, and we'll do that so you guys don't see my icons at the bottom and realize that I'm like a filthy trash pile. I have Unity on my computer still. Okay, so this is the team I'm deeply considering playing for Canadian Nationals. Why am I considering this? Because I'm out of my damn mind, and I really like it. It's kind of this is a personal kind of situation. Excuse me a second. I'm just going to turn on the air conditioning because I turned it off. It's too loud when we're watching TV. But I'm now also sitting in front of 3 monitors and dying. So, all right. Here we go. So the first figure I'm using is Baron Mordo. He's a weird one. And a lot of people hate this idea. And I don't care. I don't care. He's mine. I'm using him. Deal with it. He's 6 range, 2 targets, Mystic's team ability. This dial, a fairly long dial in a current era of 100-point figures. And then he's got mystical and offenders. This is a mystical theme team. If you've already started looking at the team and started reading into the figures. But he's got this Add to Doctor Strange's, my collection, where if you happen to miss an attack on Baron Mordo, and you're equipped, I'm either taking your equipment, which is the less likely option, or I'm KOing it, which is what I'm probably going to do to you. Oddly enough, I got really excited. One of my rulings came in on the win. I think I'm 1 for 27 right now, guys. One ruling has been not declined on the win. Out of 27 rulings I've made ruling requests for. My number might be way out there, and there's some guy in the win like, Jason, you put in like 12. It's like, okay, cool, but you still only allowed 1. But it was a ruling in regards to Baron Mordo. So I do understand now that if somebody attacks me with a collector, or say a Thanos who's got multiple gems and they have multiple objects, I'm only being able to take 1 out at a time. Shame, but doesn't matter. I'm still taking out an object that's 10 points, and you had to miss me for that. His other thing, the subtle spell casting. This one I really like. Once per turn, when an opposing character within range uses probability control, after their reroll, you may reroll that roll. Now, unfortunately, with the new ruling of the time gem, that does mean if I reroll a 10, I can't reroll like a 10, because that one is completely denying all rerolls. Darn, shucks. But at the same time, if the time gem isn't an issue or isn't relevant in this particular situation, that is in addition to the 4 clicks of probability control this Baron Mordo starts with. So he can do all that. And then if things happen to not go your way, let's try again. Or if you get the last prob in and you make it a hit, I could turn it into a not hit. And the pacing on it is also very different. I can use this before I use probability control with Baron Mordo as an example, because it doesn't stipulate a pacing. You reroll it with probability control. I Baron Mordo it. If you still manage to keep it as a hit, now I'm going to use a probability control of Baron Mordo. It's pretty sick when it comes down to it. I'm really liking a lot of what this guy does. And then you get the special attack power on the first 4 clicks. Sleep as one who is dead. Precision Strike, which is really good power. Close or range, half damage, make a close or range attack, hit characters a given action. So it's kind of like a damaging, and it's not going to work most of the time, to be brutally honest. But at the same time, giving an action token in the right situations, could go a long way. It might stall out on or help to stall out on a Unimind, because 1 damage at a time, giving him an action token. We all know how he doesn't like taking action tokens, right? So that is there. All right, I'm going to go next with the 2 bigger pieces, the more focused pieces, and then the unilateral pieces we'll talk about very briefly. All right, so next up, Sheriff Strange. Everybody's using ID cards. That's the first thing we know about him. And that's the walls of Battle World must remain inviolate. Inviolate. Invalid? I don't know. Opposing characters must use a double power action instead of a power action to activate ID cards. Fairly straightforward. If you're not packing... This does open up a big problem with my team that I'll talk about in a bit. But, that aside, I think that's a pretty potent purpose to exist in the game. In addition to which, do not poo-poo this guy's stats. He's got a stop click with 4 clicks. He has got the Mystics team ability. So you've got to take at least 2 Mystics to take him down if you don't have Invincible. Invincible's not as frequent an occurrence in this current metagame as you'd think. I think Unimind is really the only guy actively packing it. And then beyond that, you'll find little pockets of it, but it's not... I mean, the Thanos uses it, so I mean, that is what it is. But, that's what we got. So it's a stop click with Mystics, who's indomitable. He can do some of my calling in, which, if you've looked ahead, you know where I'm talking about. And he's got beef. Like, the potential to do 5 damage or 3 damage with a high attack with knockback, that's astronomically awesome. And I will use knockback as much as I possibly can. Emily knows. I think Emily has been the most frequent victim of my uses of knockback than anyone else. The most unfortunate victim of my knockback has been local player Manny. Back when you were allowed to outwit flight on a character with Power Cosmic, I used the impact beam ring from the Mandarin ring to knock a dupe off of elevated terrain and just watch his face go, oh! Anyway, so Sheriff Strange, just in general, really good figure overall. In addition to all this, he's leadership and perplex. Trait. Right? Very cool. The Psychic Blast thing might come in handy. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of equipment out there, right? And we talked about the stop click. The stop click's mostly an empty click to just keep him alive. But don't forget, one thing worth noting. Look at those last 3 clicks on Baron Mordo. He's packing Mastermind. My next 50 or higher character is Raven. Raven is mostly there for probability control, perplex, and carrying, but I have in the past used support with her in some of my practice games. It has come in handy when making mistakes, doing things, and she's capable of carrying all the team because it's a mystical theme team, and she can carry guys with fly, which is, of course, my Baron Mordo and my Sheriff Strange. So, very capable figure. If she happens to live through an attack, there's a chance she might come back to life. Full clicks, who knows? Also Mystic, so it costs to take her down. Perplex, Prob, and Support. Again, super useful support character. All these characters, of course, capable of calling in all except in the case of one situation. The Jean Grey will always be the chase. Sorry. Not sorry. But you'll see I have a Cyclops, Jean Grey, Jubilee, Iceman, and Angel student IDs. The choosing on this one was probably the most work I've done as far as this team. This is where the most amount of flipping around has happened. I chose student IDs for all of them to be able to pick more ID cards, just to maximize them. In addition to which, just focusing on a lot more range dudes was a big key to it, with the exception of Angel. Angel is the exception to the rule, and there's a reason I use him as my exception class. I'll explain a lot of those choices. For the most part, with the exception of Jean Grey, all of these are capable of being called in by all 3 of the characters that are the mainstays of the team. There are a couple smaller point dudes that make up towards the end. Try Sentinel. You want to take me to a closed map? Fine, I'll punish you for it. In addition to which, he's got probably the best Colossal one of the best Colossal Retaliations out there. On top of having a 9 range triple target, able to shoot at other Colossals. Why not? If you get there. And he's also got sidestep with 8 movement. You'll note I put the Remaker ring twice. It is not 2 Remaker rings. Bear with me. So I am capable of first turn equipping with the Tri-Sentinel, which is usually the goal. This team does have a very slow turn 1 and 2 kind of setup. I wish it didn't, but I think this was to maximize it to the way I wanted it to be. I think this was the best option to go with. Anyway, so Tri-Sentinel will get the high priority ring depending on what I need in the moment. So it is either Baron Mordo is getting the Remaker ring, or the Nightbringer will go to Sheriff Strange depending on how much of a rush I'm in. To be brutally honest, Sheriff Strange has Indomitable and can happily go get his ring on his own. So yeah, that's there. Billy Batson's a 20-point perplex. That has a stop click. Don't forget, Baron Mordo has that Mastermind towards the end. As well, Alex Wilder has Mastermind. So I do have 2 Mastermind options that are absolutely tormentative to opponents who are trying to Mastermind me or to do damage to me. And I'm just going to say, that's cute. That damage goes to somebody less important. And I believe since Mastermind is actually passing the attack, you're taking them a 6 damage for that. I have to double check to be sure, because rules have changed. But based on what I've read of Mastermind and the way that the attack just actually gets passed, I'm now passing you a Mystic's target, possibly. But in the case of Billy Batson, I am passing you a stop click. Sorry. Not sorry. In addition to which, Billy Batson is pretty easy to heal. I'm talking with some old school Heroclix magic talk there. Like on his last click, he's a 14 defense, so I need a 3 or higher to use support with Raven. If I only get 1 click, I get 1 click, but there's a chance I can get a roll of 3 healing, which would be subtracted by 1. So I need a 5 or higher to get my Billy Bat. Wait, is that right? Yeah, I need a 5 or higher to get Billy Batson on to click 1. And get my perplex back, or I just go back to the middle click, and now I can Mastermind to Billy Batson again because stop will just keep going and going and going. Awesome. And then of course Alex Wilder, probably one of the best mystical and scientist supporters in the game, simply for putting pressure on your opponent to make the right decision. The unfortunate fact is I'm pretty sure 90% of the time in the current environment, Alex Wilder is going to have Outwit, and he's going to have another power, either Perplex or Probability Control. And the reason I think he's going to have Outwit a lot is I think 90% of the Cosmic figures don't care about me having Outwit because they have Power Cosmic. I accept that. I am mostly looking for either the Perplex or the Prob. Now, if you give me Prob, you've given me a 3rd, possibly 4th reroll, depending on where you are in relation to my Baron Mordo. And then, of course, just... Okay, you gave me Perplex. I've now got a 3rd source of Perplex coming from Alex Wilder. Is that right? Hold on. No, sorry. A 4th source of Perplex. Because Raven, Billy Batson, Sheriff Strange, and now you're giving it to Alex Wilder. Like, it's a hard choice for you to make, even if you're just giving me Outwit to say, haha, I got Power Cosmic. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. So ultimately, the Remaker ring will go on Baron Mordo to give him a little bit more protection, a little bit more rollout action. A lot of the time, Baron Mordo is going to be absorbing a lot of perplexes for his defense, just to hopefully watch equipment just go, oh, yeah, sure, I'll take that, sure, why not? And the Nightbringer is going to go on Sheriff Strange to keep some stealth action going for both my Alex Wilder and Sheriff Strange himself. And then, of course, we'll explain now. Nightbringer goes on Sheriff Strange. Free action to Smoke Cloud gives my Sheriff Strange stealth. And, there might be games where I actually feel it's more necessary for Baron Mordo to have stealth. It all depends on how things play out. I am fully aware that I am going to have Kobik woes. So anybody who's currently typing, you're going to have a problem with you. I know I'm going to have a problem with Kobik. Everybody has a problem with Kobik. Everybody's team has a problem with Kobik. The thing is crazy. I'm not too worried about it. I'm more worried about making poor decisions, really, and that's coming from practice. Honestly, my first game of practice with it, I made one really bad decision that is a deciding decision in the matchup, because I know this has an uphill climb with Medusas. I came close to beating them, even with the massive mistake I made, but it is an uphill battle to fight those things. Holy smokes, are they just ever in your face? I know I'm going to have a problem with a single Unimind. Unavoidable. I can fight it. I'm just not going to be able to win 100% of the games. I'm maybe going to win 30% of them. So it does depend on what shows up at Canadian Nationals for this. My ID Collins, Cyclops is the big blaster at a distance. Jean Grey, we've made some tricks with her. And we'll just kind of get Jean Grey up on the screen and discuss some of what's going on. I hope this is all right. Let's see. Okay, so Jean Grey here. The Vulture matchup is, of course, a matchup we have to be aware of. It's unavoidable. I have a +6 to map roll on the plus side, which means, cool, I have a chance. It's not a huge chance. It's not a game-breaking chance, but it's a chance. That's the important part. So you're saying there's a chance. Yes, I'm saying there's a chance. And Jean Grey is an important part of it. She will get called in, and with some fancy maneuvering and perplexing, I can actually get a full movement out of her and move an object that I want out of my opponent's face. It's because if you look at her Telepathic Tempest, her range value becomes 3, which is a replacement. And then if I perplex up her range three times, rule of 3, that gives her a 6 range when she's using a free action. So then she can move 10 squares, TK something away, and then I can sidestep just outside of that range, and we're all good. Tom wrote a long essay explaining it to me, and Tom is really good at reading the grid on this one. So thanks, Tom, for pointing that out to me. And all of that kind of came naturally as like one of the first iterations of the team. Things that have been constant have been the Jean Grey and Cyclops IDs and the team. The rings have flipped around. They've been removed from. They've flip-flopped between ID cards. So cool. And we came to the conclusion that the 2 rings would be the best. So Cyclops, we all know what Cyclops does. I don't have to explain that one. He does that, and then you die. Jubilee is our stand-in because Harley's hard to call in, and her ID card costs 5 points. She isn't Harley, but she's close enough. At least for those situations where we need her. Iceman is an extra kind of Cyclops to a degree. I am mostly planning on using the uncommon one, though I am not against the idea of using the chase. He is on the way, and I have to kind of read it out, see how it looks. Angel is our stand-in for Wolverine that we don't have that we wanted to pay 3 points for. He's got the Angel we plan on using is actually the rare from Xavier's School. Let's kind of go over this, just the ones. So Chase Jean Grey, and I have both Cyclopses on the sideline. There is still place for one more thing on the sideline if I replace one of my super friends. Actively right now, this sits with 2 Firestorms and a Wonder Woman on the sideline. Iceman here, running shot, does 3 damage. It's not a great attack. He's not my Cyclops, but if I need an incapacitate in a rush, I'll use it. I'm not against it. But for the most part, Iceman's probably just going to be a ranged combat blaster when the game gets a little bit closer. Jubilee, running shot, 5 range, 2 targets, energy explosion. She's got a wide berth energy explosion that I can perplex up the attack on massively because I've got 3 to 4 sources of perplex depending on what's going on. And her energy explosion actually reduces attacks and defenses of targets. So if I actually lead out with that, I can follow up, say, with an attack from a bigger source. So call her in with, say, Sheriff Strange, follow up with an attack from Baron Mordo. Can you imagine the nightmares that's going to cause? That could go somewhere. Then next up, the Iceman we've talked about. So we follow up with the Angel. This is good. Was one of the hard decisions I had to make as far as the last ID card. I was considering Chamber, but if Baron Mordo dies, Chamber sits there. So Angel kind of looked a little bit more appealing to me to enough of a degree. The first point I wanted to make is that his special attack power gives him Precision Strike. And then he can use Precision Strike and an additional either attack or damage. I can rule of 3 up one of them, do another, go on and go so forth. It's so ultimately there's a lot of things that I've kind of picked and chose from that team. It's not the perfect ID card call-in choices, to be brutally honest. This is kind of, I was trying to maximize the number of ID cards and maximize the functionality out of solidly just student IDs so I can keep calling in if necessary, or if Raven is bored on a turn and doesn't need to carry. She's got that extra functionality. So, yeah, this is kind of what I'm looking at. It's not super winny. It is a very me sort of situation, and I'm kind of looking at this in its own way. So, to answer actually the first question in the chat from Mr. Nate White, he wants to know what he should play at Canadian Nationals. Something that beats this, which is probably a lot of the metagame, to be honest. I got to play my butt off with this team. And I've kind of just put it out there. It's like, hey, here, it exists. I accept it. You want to counter build it? Cool. There's other things that are more important to deal with. My goal, personally, is a top 50%. I'm happy with that. Then I don't have to stress out at Worlds. If I have to stress out at Worlds, that means I'm playing... that means I'm playing in Team Worlds. I am playing in Team Worlds anyway, so hopefully I do as well, and if I don't do as well this year as I did last year, on to the grind. I don't know how they're running the grinders this year. I don't know much about Worlds. I want to know more about Worlds. Everybody wants to know more about Worlds, so hopefully more information is coming. Nothing likes playing against Kobek. I don't care. I accept it. When it comes down to it, like I've kind of accepted my future with Kobek. And then I have to kind of look at it and say, well, smarter people than me are playing against Kobek or running Kobek. As much as I would like to be the Canadian that wins Canadian Nationals, I'm not going to this year. I'm going to try my butt off with this team. But that's kind of the things, like it's got to be me, my team, and I kind of got to like it. And I just accept how it does with what I do. Jason Collins is a player. This is why I call the show Into the Mind of Madness. I cannot play like the way you're supposed to. I can identify what's good, and I realize what's good and all the possible potentials. And I know that a trader Kobik is going to push the crap out of my my Baron Mordo. But I gotta see what I can make work out of that. You know, I mean, if they're doing that, then Kobik has to be adjacent to him. I'm probably poisoning. But they might also swing back and forth with the Space Gem. There's so many problems that Kobik presents as far as reality is concerned that I'm not going to like the team anyway. Yeah, if we have any questions in the chat, pop them in there. I've kind of rambled on about my personal team and my plans, and my acceptance of what is and isn't going to work, kind of try my best to play my butt off and play to my weaknesses. Still have to do my properly set up my decision making soon. Got to look at all the possible teams and then consider what's already been played that's still going to likely show up. I mean, there's a lot of variations of the Kobik team that are very likely to show up, so I got to start planning against those. And see what happens. I know Giant Girl, the Medusas are so aggressive that I have to deal with it. Another thing that has come up in conversation, and one of my friend Aiden saw this team and he said, I like this team, but I don't have a Baron Mordo. And I said, why don't you try Black Adam instead? And that is something I do have to consider, is the idea that Black Adam might be the better option. I have to read how the team plays out. For me, the Baron Mordo's rerolls went a long way towards the decision to kind of stick with him. So that's the direction I'm kind of pointing myself at. We'll see. We will see, kids. I think I'm kind of wrapping it up here. So we were just watching Stranger Things season 3 is pretty great, and super excited to get back to that. Just got my Red Skull and Collector in. Had a small problem with some of the packaging that Troll and Toad did there, but that is what it is. I sent my polite email. Hopefully they got it. But the way my collector was packaged was a little stress-inducing when I saw it. State of the collection is actually looking really good as far as Black Panther is concerned. I think we're missing one chase from the entire set, and Runner, and I'd say I'm missing Maximus, but is anybody missing Maximus? Alright, guys. I've shared my nonsense. I've stepped in. You've helped and come with me and stepped into the Mind of Madness. So thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys for watching in the archives. So a quick half-hour episode today, because in and out. I think next week we'll start talking about... we've already talked about the Medusa team. We've talked about the Kobik Astronomer team. I think next week we are going to spend a little bit of time discussing other expectations on the metagame. And that will be... Let's pull out our calendar so we understand. So next week will be the 11th, and the week after that's the 18th. I am not going to be running an episode on the 18th. The 18th I want to spend that night packing and being ready because we leave on the 19th for Canadian Nationals. But on the 11th, we'll talk about what I haven't talked about as far as the metagame is concerned, and those outlier teams, those really weird things that people may have forgotten about or will exist, and we have to plan for. So that, I think, is going to be next week's episode. Oh, excuse me. And I think the schedule was, so we have that one. Then we're going to do one more. And then, so there will not be a Married Lab this Friday. There will be a Married Lab next Friday. Guys, if you want to check out some cute stuff, we've had some casual episodes of snack eating this week. Amber popped those up. One of them, when it was Rock Canada Cup last year, Chris Stockhouse came down and we did a little bit of an American-Canadian cat exchange. So we compared the Kit Kat brands of Canada, Nestle from Canada and Hershey's from the U.S. And then our kids did some Heroclix trivia while munching on American Girl Guide cookies. It's one of those... You guys have so much cool treats down south, and I can't wait to get down to Worlds and see what Memphis has for food, because I love the food when I go to other places. New Orleans, one of the highlights for me was all the tasty, delicious food and shellfish and whatnot. And Amber is delicious shellfish, but I was gorging anyway.
Sorry, I had alligator.
Amber had gator. It's good. So that's this week in Into the Mind of Madness. Thank you for joining again. And you guys have yourselves a wonderful evening. I'm going to stop saying goodnight. I'm just going to go and exit.